Hello and welcome to this new tutorial with this wonderful OBS NVIDIA mask incrustation. So what we will learn today is how to texture a 3D object like such as this one, and to do that I will start to create a new composition with Control N and create a 3D object. So right click, 3D layer, box to start. And mandatory when you create a 3D object or when you use a 3D object is to create a 3D camera, else you will use a viewport camera from Smode. It's better to have a proper camera to have like full control over its placement, position or whatever. So you see here when you create a 3D object, it shows you this little warning: PBR require working in linear color space to be correct. Please put your compo in gamma linear. So to do that, I will create a new composition by selecting my box and put Ctrl-Shift-C or right-click, make compo, and call it 3D, just for the sake of it. And now my composition, my sub-composition, hold a lot of parameters that are inherited from the main composition in which it is, as you can see with this little line here. Such as its resolution and its raster quality. So let's uncheck the automatic value to parameter that. So first thing is the multi-sampling that allow to disable the anti-aliasing, well, to fix the anti-aliasing. It consumes performance, so be aware of that when you're using 3D. And then the gamma value type here, it's what this warning is about. I will change that from sRGB to linear, and you see that our composition changed. Then I have a warning here: it's recommended to use more than 8 bits per pixel when using linear color gamma. So this is the depth of our bits into the composition. So I would recommend to put at least 60 bits clumped or even the maximum. And this will allow to have like a more detailed gradient and more values to compute the lighting into the 3D space. Why I do that in a sub-composition though is because let's create a little linear gradient here. So this is a gradient that goes from black to white in a linear way. And it's computed in sRGB color values because it is in my main composition here, which is still in sRGB. If I put that in my 3D composition, which is linear composition, you see that my gradient changed a lot. It's still the same, it still holds the same values. It's a linear gradient that goes in linear fashion from black to white. But it is then computed in a linear color space, which can bring some trouble if you do some 2D compositing. So that's why I always put my 3D stuff into a sub-composition and then do all my 2D modifications, such as adding images, putting dark shots, and doing 2D color grading in sRGB color space. So then, if I click on my box, I see that it has a little renderer here in this box, which is a PBR surface renderer. And if I unfold my box, I have here all the different textures that I can put into my 3D object. So the thing I always do when I use 3D renderers is go do a Control-Shift-A, or you can do a right-click renderer and add whatever renderer. And then I just suppress the renderer that I just added to just keep one. It's just for me to have the renderer directly into the element tree. I find it more convenient, but it's the same. So if I unfold this, I get back my different texture. And here I have my parameter, the parameter of my PBR renderer. So PBR renderer, it stands for physically based renderer, and it has these different 6 different textures. Albedo, that can be called also color or diffuse, or maybe some other else. Metallic, that it's usually called metallic or matte. Roughness, that can be called specular or reflection, or yeah, something like that. Normal, usually it's normal or NRM. emissive, and occlusion that can be called AO, like ambient occlusion. So if you go to internet and just type 3dBr, let's go to the first one and see what it is. Okay, and you have a lot of different material to choose from. And you have here usually different proposition, BL that I guess is Blender, UO like Unreal Engine, and Unity. Because they have like sometimes different way of computing the different images. I don't remember which one is the best for Smode, but I think it's Unreal Engine. I think this one should be alright. And they always come as a package that I already have in my media directory. Here, material, texture. So let's take this one. I think all the textures that I need. It always comes with a different package of different texture. So here you have AO, which is ambient occlusion. Here col, like colorize. So let's put this texture into this model. So to do that, I do Alt drag and drop. So I press the key Alt and drag and drop over albedo. And here is my texture. Then let's put the ambient occlusion. So this simulates the surface, the contact shadows. Then disp, we will check that later because it will not be used as a texture, but more as a layer mask over a displacement modifier. The normal map, this one simulates the false, like a false bumpiness on the surface, as you see here, and RGH, which is roughness. And roughness, what it changes, it's the way the model is lightened. You cannot see that much now. So let's just create a little light to see better. So I do a right click on my 3D composition, the composition that hold my 3D model. Light, and let's use the environment light, which will be a 360 light that simulate nice lightning. And let's click on render skybox when the environment light is selected to just see the light and not the background image. So now the roughness, for instance, is a black and white. It's always black and white gradient. So the more white and the more matte it will be, and the more black and the more shiny it will be. So let's do a little split in our viewport to see what is happening. And let's visualize this roughness texture. Let's put a little exposure modifier. So, and you see how you can change the lightning and where you can you want to put the lightning in your layer using this kind of method. You can do the same for the albedo, for instance. If we do a little color hue, for instance. So that's how you can texturate your model. Let's remove one of the window and go back to our model. And visualize, okay. And what you can do also, if you want to resize your texture, is do a right click on your 3D model, attribute, UV transform, and this modifier will allow to do some tiling transformation into your. Then for the displace modifier, for the displace texture, we have to use a displace modifier, which I will use by a right click, distort, displace modifier. So it has only one value, that is a distance in meter. So let's put that at 10 centimeters, for instance, given that my box is 1 meter wide by default. So this modifier, if I change this value, you see it just change the direction of my geometry according to its normal. So just display the geometry pushing every point towards the outer edges. And let's create a layer mask on this modifier. So to do that efficiently, I will take my displace texture, and this one not use Alt drag and drop, but use Control drag and drop. So I press Control, drag and drop on the displace modifier, and it does something, but quite ugly. Let's change the displace value. So something is happening, but here my box has only a subdivision. If I go in select my box and generator, a precision, which means a subdivision of 10 by 10. So let's see that with adding a renderer wireframe. So let's change the subdivision of the box by a lot. Okay. And then now you see that my displace is displacing my texture, creating a real, a real bumpiness in my geometry. And the more you add subdivision, and the more accurate it will obviously. So that's it for now. I will show later on the next video how to texturate an FBX, a 3D model that was made in another software, but that will be for another time.